The Reformed Gamers is brought to you 100% independent and ad-free thanks to our dear patrons over on patreon.com/thereformedgamers. To get yourself sweet perks such as early access to all of our episodes, special episodes of the podcast, and more, head over to patreon.com/thereformedgamers today and consider lending support to the show. Without further ado, let's hop into the show.
Welcome, dear listeners, to the episode 142 of the Reformed Gamers podcast. I am your host, Adam.
And I'm his guest host, Micah.
And as you can see, listeners, there is no Logan, our fearless leader tonight. As life comes and goes, he got a little behind today at work or had some extra things put on his plate, so he wasn't able to join us. Now, originally, we were going to be doing a episode on Resident Evil 2, so if you follow the show or you're a patron, you're probably wondering, why are we not talking about Resident Evil 2? Well, Micah could hold his own in the topic. I have played the game, but it only seems fair that the Platinum King, Logan, and Micah, who have both Platinum the game, should both be on it to discuss it. So we're going to push that back probably. I was looking at the schedule. They probably post E3 at this point because if Logan and I aren't careful, we're going to miss probably the most fun episode that we get to do all year. One of the most besides Game of the Year, and that's our kind of E3 predictions. So hopefully we'll be getting that in the next couple weeks. But
yeah,
if you've followed my life, Logan's life, you'll know for me, I'm moving here soon. So I'm going to be on as much as I can. But Micah, it's funny how we have waves of the podcast. We've had waves of where, like Jonathan Steele, who was on the last episode with Micah, he would go on like his 3, 4, 5 episode spiel where it seemed like he was on a lot. Mm-hmm. You know, we've had some now with Micah where it's like 3, 4, 5 episodes where he's been on. And so we've got a rotating-ish third chair, but, you know, definitely thankful to have Micah on to join me tonight. Cause if not, it would be
always happy to be on, man. This is, love talking VGs.
Yeah. Let's right. Who doesn't like talking video games now? Because of life, we'll see how much video games. Hopefully, you've got a lot to bring because my video game time has been consumed with trying to buy a house, the game of life, and spending all this money that I don't have.
Oh, man.
But
the ultimate achievement.
Yeah, the ultimate achievement: buying a house and then waiting for something to go wrong. But anyways, before we get into the show, let's get into some housekeeping. It kind of makes sense. So the Twitch channel. Logan, he does more of our streaming than I've ever really done. I think I've streamed twice. It just doesn't work for me. You know, streaming for me personally, I got to pause too much with my daughter. I'm usually multitasking. Streaming's difficult. But Logan has always owned that. But we're actually going to take a little hiatus from Twitch, especially during the summer Logan, if any of you have been involved in youth ministry, the summer is when it hits and when it really happens. So we're going to be taking a break for the summer on Twitch. We'll see what happens. Maybe I would say probably this fall. But Logan will jump on here and there, so keep your eyes peeled probably on Twitter and on Facebook whenever he posts. But nothing schedule-wise is going to be on Twitch. But with that, he's going to be doing more with YouTube just because you can record, edit. He's got that capture card for the Switch. So he's got 2 new videos that are up now. He did one video of kind of a tour of Logan's Nintendo Switch where he kind of talks about the different games that are on there. You should go watch it. Give him a hard time.
I saw that. That one was
really give him a hard time about having Mortal Kombat as a Christian on his Switch. Like, how dare him? It's such a pure, family-friendly console, and he goes and corrupts it with Mortal Kombat 11. How dare him? And then he's back into Fury now. If you know Logan, he did Fury a long time ago. Started it, never finished it. He's kind of going back through the game and recording that. And then looks like he's going to be doing one here soon actually his Fury episode 3 is Turn Back Time. So discussing concept of time control, regret, and living our lives in a manner worthy of God's glory. So go to YouTube, Reform Gamers on YouTube, check them out. See what Logan's got to say there. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get right on into the show. And Micah, will let you open up with a little bit of what we've been playing. So what have you been into lately?
Yeah, I've been into a little bit of a lot of things, I guess. Tetris 99 is still getting rotation on my Switch somehow. I keep going to that. That is like the the steady Eddie where every now and again I'll just pick up Tetris 99 and just play 2 or 3 rounds, you know, either get my butt kicked or maybe pierce the top 30 maybe, but that game is great. So I've been playing a little bit of Tetris 99, but recently traded in a few games and picked up a few games on the cheap. So I got Lego Marvel Superheroes 2. I picked up the BioShock collection, and I picked up Gran Turismo Sport, all for the PS4.
Nice.
So I'm going to play BioShock. I've played all those games before. They're awesome, but been kind of itching to play those games. So I'm going to play that later. But I did boot up Lego Marvel Superheroes 2, mainly so I could play it with my 8-year-old daughter, Layla. We played through the first Lego Marvel Superheroes game together and enjoyed it. We really had a good time with that. That's right up her alley. So we're playing that. It's the typical Lego formula. You know, if you ever played a Lego game, they're not really worn out on me. I've only played like 3 or 4 of them. So they're still pretty fresh to me. But I think it looks better and plays better than the first game. The first one, I thought, I don't know, maybe it was just me being new to Lego, but it was a little nebulous as to what to do sometimes as far as your objective. This one's a little bit more clear, I feel like, you know, especially for kids and stuff. Maybe we're just getting the hang of it. I don't know. But playing that with my daughter, that's you know, typical Lego Marvel fare. It's good stuff. A lot of characters.
I think the only Legos I've played, well, the most recent ones, I've played a lot of the old Star Wars ones. But there was a season where, I think it was when I was living overseas, and all my gaming was just thrown out of whack. I was gaming on my Mac, which everyone's just like, what? Hey, I was living in the middle of Central Asia, doing what I could, and I was playing a lot of games on my iPad, and I got into like, I think it was, I bought all the Harry Potter Lego games on my iPad.
Sure.
And so, I mean, it was okay, definitely not ideal, but those were probably the last ones I've played. I think I maybe had one on my Vita, but didn't really go too far in it. But yeah, it's the Lego games are fun. If anything, it brings a lot of nostalgia back with the characters that you get to play as. Yeah,
the Lego Marvel Superheroes ones are the primary 2 I've played. I've dabbled a little bit in the Star Wars and a little bit in maybe the Jurassic Park one, I want to say. But yeah, those are fun romps. Secondly, the other game I picked up, I said Gran Turismo Sport. Booted that up, and that is like, if you're a Gran Turismo fan, I've been kind of geeking out in the groups with Jesse Knopp about it. But if you're a Gran Turismo fan, that's like riding a bike. Those games are so good. It's a visual tour de force on PS4 Pro. Excellent HDR implementation. Just looks stunning. It really kind of, when it launched, it came out, I think, like late 2017 or something like that. It initially had like a big online focus. And not a ton of single player offerings like Gran Turismo fans are used to having. They've added in a whole bunch of single player offerings since launch, and so I'm booting it up now for the first time, and it's all here, man, and I'm loving it. I'm doing the driver's license stuff where you got to do this, like teaching you how to drive, and I'm like loving getting gold medals on that, and then just unlocking cars and stuff. You can do your not dailies. Basically, if you do your daily workout is what they call it. Like you drive a certain mileage length, and you'll get like a new car and those sort of things. So that's a lot of fun unlocking all those cars. And this game has a scapes mode, and you know how much I love photo modes. So it has so basically you can set your awesome looking cars in these. It's actual photos. It's not photorealistic. It is a photo. And it looks awesome. So you set up your cars and take pictures and stuff. And there's an actual trophy for like taking a whole bunch of those. So I'm like going to town, like taking pictures of my cars like a geek.
I think the only time I've ever really got into, I got into Gran Turismo. I think it was 2 on the PlayStation 2, either 2 or 3. I don't remember which one was on.
I think it would have been 3 on the PlayStation 2.
Yeah. So we were actually, it's kind of bad. We were on a mission trip with our youth group. But it was kind of not put together super well. We had way too much downtime. And I don't know why, but we had a PlayStation. Actually, was it PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 1? It was, I think it had to be a 2. But we had a PlayStation 2, and we were all we all had our cars, and we would race each other. It was kind of wild, but I'm like, what a waste of time that we spent on this mission trip. But I've never been a big racing guy, but I think that's probably been the most experience. I know they look beautiful, but I've never really had a lot.
Yeah, and they're not for everyone. It is a racing sim. I think Logan was asking in the group when I was posting something about it. It's like, is this more of a sim, or like kind of asking about comparing it to Forza? Is this more like Horizon or more like, Forza Motorsport? I was like, it's more like Forza Motorsport. It's more of a sim. And so, it's not for everyone, but every now and again, about once or twice a year, I have an itch for a good racing game. So I picked this up, and I'm having a blast with it. It really kind of pulled me away from the last game I'll talk about briefly, because I mentioned it last time, Ni no Kuni 2. I still am plugging away at that a little bit. Like I said, I just got to the point where you can start building out your kingdom, which is really great. I've been doing some of that. But been just dipping my toe back in a little bit between Gran Turismo Sport and Lego Marvel Sessions.
Yeah, basically the whole time that you guys were talking about Ni no Kuni 2 last time, as I was listening to the episode, I was just like yelling. I'm like, why are they talking about this without me there? Like, Logan's played the first one, some of the second one. I don't think he finished it, but I'm just like I'm supposed to be the guy talking about Ni no Kuni.
Yeah, I hated that you weren't there.
I really enjoyed the second one. I've said this, if you've heard me talk about Ni no Kuni on the podcast before, I'm a broken record. 2 was good, 1 was better. The combat style that's different in 2 from 1, not a bad thing. It's different. Different doesn't mean bad. It's different, but what made the first one unique to me was the combat system. Mm-hmm. And that's why I wish they would have stuck with the original, because it is a little bit quirky. It's different, but I feel like it made it more fun. Now, I think you mentioned in last week on the other episode how it's kind of easy in the beginning. I would agree. The first part of the game I didn't die very often. Towards the end, it definitely I had to be more strategic, way more than I did in the beginning.
Did you play on the standard difficulty?
I played on standard. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I wouldn't say it ramps up like crazy, but there was definitely towards the second half to the end of the game, I definitely died. And I would say in the first half, I almost never died. Really didn't.
Yeah, I don't think I've even. Well, actually, I did die one time, but I was being a goof, I think. But it's really been a pleasant surprise, honestly. I had tempered my expectations for this game because I knew that Studio Ghibli didn't do the art themselves, and just the story was different. I liked the characters from the first game, and I knew some of the differences. So I had tempered expectations, but I've been really pleasantly surprised, in particularly just the storytelling and the scenarios. I think I mentioned it last time. They've just been really engrossing, and that's sort of my jam. If you can get me, if you can get me hooked with a good, plot detail or whatever, I'm gonna probably dive in. But
you just gotta wait, man. There's some good. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but there's some good twists in it.
Yeah, sure, I need to definitely get back to it because, with story games, if I put it down for too long, I'm going to forget. So I need to put GT down a little bit and get back to it a little bit more. But yeah, so those are the 3 main games I'm playing. I'm loving all 3. Just started Lego Marvel. Haven't gotten too far into that, but GT Sport and Ni no Kuni 2 are both great games. Very recommended. Yeah,
and I'll just throw this one more thing on Ni no Kuni 2. The kingdom building. Have you got very far into that much?
I've gotten to that, and I have started leveling up and assigning people to different, jobs and stuff. And that's about it. Like, I've started doing that, but not real deep.
That probably, I don't do it. I usually will do some side quests here and there, but those were the great thing I think about Ni no Kuni 2 and the kingdom building and even their side quests. A lot of the stuff, there's some like gathering side quests, like, gather this. But if you just play the game, a lot of them in due time will take care of themselves. Like, don't sell off any of your stuff to any vendors. Like, just keep everything that you collect for the most part. And there were some times where I'm like, okay, I need to wait to do this because I'm not a high enough level. Or, okay, I need to look up a guide. Where can I find this one specific thing? But a ton of the side quests just kind of fell into place. And it made me want to do them because the kingdom building, that's where the payoff was there. Like, I'm like, I want to have the right people in the right place so I can get the right perks. Like, it's a really fun game. And the kingdom building, like, again, that's not stuff that I usually would care at all about. But I actually got pretty far into it.
At first, I was really taken back by the world map graphics and kind of the little cute, short little figurines or whatever that you walk around. And I didn't like it at first, but it's really grown on me, and I've kind of found myself exploring a lot more just in the world map. Like, this isn't where I'm supposed to go. I'm just going to go over here and start looking around because I can.
Yep.
And see, like, oh, there's a little cave over here, or a little, forest that is like a hidden forest or something like that, a little tiny thing with a treasure box or something like that. So it's real rewarding, in that way, as, most, open world RPGs like that are. But yeah. Good
so
stuff
good.
there.
We could talk all night on Ni no Kuni too, but
I've got a lot more to play. So if I'm ever back on, maybe I'll talk about it more. But so far, so good.
We could do. There's an episode there with Ni no Kuni 2. If Logan was ever to finish it, like, we could do an episode because there's some good story elements in there. Probably not quite as strong as the first one, but still a lot of good in that one. But anyway, so what I've been playing. Like I said, my gaming has not been what I would like it to be, but, sometimes, again, we're the Reformed gamers. We love gaming, but they all have an order, and currently family responsibilities have been above that. And just preparing to move, saying goodbye to people. Like, the last week that students were here, I was just, like, trying to touch base and talk with as many people as I could. So it all makes sense, but it doesn't mean that I don't miss my fun hobby. But so I've been I played some Xenoblade Chronicles, the Golden Torna DLC. It was like the standalone. You can buy it. It's like you can get it as cartridge, or you could buy it digitally. So I bought that off eBay. I put probably 10, 11 hours into it, but this is a good kind of comparison. So Ni no Kuni 2, really enjoyed developing my kingdom, doing all that. In Xenoblade Chronicles, they have like a community, and you have to do a bunch of side quests to kind of build your community. I think I was a level 2 community, and they're like, we want you to get to level 4 before you can continue on. And the only way that you do that is by doing a bunch of side quests. Now, the difference is these aren't side quests that will just take care of themselves. So I was going to have to do a bunch of fetch and gather side quests, just kind of running around, just wasting time. And so I'm like, you know what? Ain't nobody got time for that. It's a prequel to the original game, so I kind of know how it ends, or to Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So it's a prequel to that. So I'm like, you know what? I've enjoyed my 10, 11 hours. I'm not going to force myself to do a bunch of fetch quests. So I decided to abandon that, sold it to Logan. He can play it and tell me how it all ends. Okay. But, I mean, it was fun. It's the game. It took me a minute to get back in the swing of things. I really enjoyed 2. I thought that story was really good. This one, again, prequel. I think it's like 500 years before that game. So the story has got some interesting aspects to it. You're kind of catching some of that backstory. The combat's familiar. But, you're in some similar locations. You're in a couple new ones. But I was just like, you know what? With the amount of gaming time I have right now, I'm not a guy that I feel like it was like unnecessary filler. I'm like, you're making me just build this community up. There's no purpose for it. It's not like these people are going to help me fight. You're just trying to make the game longer, when I had one mission left, but it was going to take me 6 hours to get there because I had to do a bunch of side quests to kind of get to that point. So I'm like, I'm just not going to, I'd rather not spend my time that way.
That makes sense.
So yeah, abandoned that, sold it. Been playing some VR. That's kind of, I'm like, I really wanted to play Days Gone. I might get to it, but I'm going to catch it on a sale. That's what I've decided with Days Gone. I'm going to catch it when it's $20, $30 at some point, maybe this fall. So I'm like, I'm going to try to focus up on some VR while I can. So I've been playing some Borderlands 2 VR with how was that? Aim control. Man, it's fun. Like, I feel like I've got VR legs now. Like, I could play it for a good hour and a half, and it doesn't mess with me at all. Like, awesome. I really feel good. Now, they may be a little stiff because I'm just kind of standing up in place for an hour and a half. But it plays good. I've realized that, okay, so early in that I was saying, like, man, the aim doesn't feel very tight. Well, you don't have, like, your aim when you click the aim button, like your L2, like you would on a normal controller. Yeah. You're like, I don't feel like I really need to do that with this one. But you still want to do that because it kind of slows down your gun, gives you more accuracy. So that solved some of the issues that I was having with the game. And so, but I mean, it's fun. I mean, you've got guys coming right at you. You're looking left and right. You're jumping everywhere. You're getting the different guns. I mean, if you like Borderlands, it plays really well. Yeah. It's extremely fast. Yeah. I mean, especially I think of, so like Farpoint. Farpoint's a good first person shooter. Now, again, I haven't got super far in that, but you pretty much know where your guys are coming at all times.
Okay, so at this point, you've played Farpoint, you've played Firewall, and you've played this game with the aim controller, right?
Yep.
So how would you compare Borderlands to those other two? As far as just like the quality of like first person shooting with the aim controller.
I mean, with the aim controller itself, I mean, it's just as good as any of them. Okay. I mean, it's tight. I mean, the different guns make it fun, so you kind of find which gun you want, kind of works for you. I mean, it's Borderlands in VR.
Sure.
The one thing that it doesn't really have a run button, so that kind of stinks. So you kind of feel like you're moving a little bit slow at times, but you're running around, you're looking left and right. Like you'll have a guy running at you. Nothing feels better than pulling out a shotgun and just blowing them away. Or you'll be up high, you jump down, you're blowing. Like when you think of Farpoint, you don't have. It's pretty flat terrain.
Right.
With your Firewall, again, you've got some stories, but it's not action-packed necessarily. It's like very strategic. This one's like high intensity. You're looking around, running around, switching guns. You've got grenades blowing. I mean, it plays like when I first got it, I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish like 20 hours. And then my second playthrough, once I really got into like some side quests and things like that, I'm like, man, this is great. Like I'm really enjoying it. And so if you're interested, look on eBay. I know someone's selling it in the auction house. It's a fair price. But if because so many people bought it with the bundle. So the Moss, or was it Beat Saber, Borderlands 2. And if they don't want it, they've just got that. So people are selling. I mean, you could probably find it for $25. Is there
co-op in this version, in the VR version?
No. I'm hoping.
That's the difference right there. If they had that, I would buy it and play with you.
Yeah, man.
But I'm not sure they're going to now.
Well, here's the thing. At the who's it that creates them? My mind's blanking right now. Who created Borderlands?
Oh gosh, if you hadn't have said it, good grief.
Well, whoever it is, Gearbox. So at their conference a couple weeks back, they mentioned that this Borderlands 2 VR right now doesn't have any of the DLC. Sometime this summer or into the summer, they're adding all the DLC for free. And now they've already added gun support, which it didn't originally have. So I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, and they maybe will add multiplayer when they add the DLC.
If they do, I will pick it up if you're willing to play for sure. Because the thing is, I've played Borderlands 1, and that's it. So this is perfect. If I could jump into 2 in VR, that'd be a great way to do it, I think.
I've really enjoyed it. And so I'm playing with a different character that I normally play with. But yeah, I'd say, I mean, the quality of the game is good. Now, sometimes, here are some of the negatives. The menus are they don't work super great with the gun.
Okay.
So that's a disadvantage. The mini map, the placement of the map on the headset is not very good either. They got it too far up in the corner, and I have to like really strain my eyes to see it. So that's two of the biggest things. Is the menus are kind of clunky to use, and the mini map kind of stinks. But other than that, gameplay alone, and even graphics. It's older. It's an older game, so the graphics are what they are. But it still looks good and plays really good. So if you got a VR, you liked Borderlands 2, you might want to try to find it on a good deal, because I've definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So been playing a little bit of that. I've been traveling so much, I haven't got to play it a ton, but I'm probably 4 or 5 hours into it. And then lastly, I'm only 4 or 5 missions, so probably 3 hours or so into LA Noir on the Switch. So got it back on Black Friday for like $10 from GameStop. So I'm like, a Switch game for $10? Like, are you kidding me? So
you've never played this one before?
I've never played it before.
Okay, yeah.
And so I was actually kind of impressed. I'm like, this game looks pretty good for a Switch game. The voiceovers, the facial expressions, I'm like, they do it pretty good.
The faces look great.
Yeah. Now, I'm not very good at detective games, which kind of stinks. So I'm like constantly kind of quitting and restarting, because I'm like, I just got all 3 questions incorrect. So I've been kind of restarting a lot of those, but definitely enjoying it. I've heard that it gets a little bit repetitive, but it does. So have you played it then?
Yeah, I played it back on PS3, I think. And I played through, goodness, I feel like maybe 2/3 or 3/4 of it, and then just got burned out. Like you said, it got repetitive.
Yeah.
And I just got tired of it. It was a good game. I did enjoy my time with it, but it was a little long in the tooth, so I never did finish it.
My thoughts are that I'm playing them in such like broken up chunks that it won't feel as repetitive. So if I play like, okay, 2 or 3 nights in a row, I take 3 or 4 nights off, play a couple. And again, I put $10 into it. So
have you been promoted yet?
I've got the first one.
Okay, so that's kind of a fun part about it is you keep getting promoted to different desks. So that's anyway, that's good stuff.
Yeah, it seemed like the first couple of missions are kind of they're introing some stuff shorter, and then they get a little bit longer, different outcomes. But yeah, I've been playing that, really been enjoying it. So
cool.
We'll see over the next. We've got a lot of travel. But the travel's been so exhausting. Even when I want to play games, I'm just like, I just need to go to sleep. But it's okay. Gaming it'll find its way. I should have my wife on this podcast. I think she's been gaming more than I have. It's just a home. It's a home decorating game for her iPhone. I mean, she loves it. I'm like, Hannah, like you're a bigger gamer than. No, I'm not. I'm only playing on my phone. I'm like, you're a gamer. It's got like a Candy Crush type of mini game inside of it. I'm like, you put hours into this. I wish I was gaming as much as you were nowadays.
Nate and Josh had their wives on the Backlog Breakdown podcast recently. So you and Logan should have your wives on for a sort of
Camilla's been on before, and she would do it again. Hannah would be a tough sell, but I might have to I'm going to be gone a lot, so maybe we do a little mini episode.
Sure.
Me and Hannah, but I'll let her give me a little rundown of her home decorating game for all of. She's since we've got this house that we're looking to buy, she's like in the zone. Everything is house decorated.
That makes total. Yep.
But anyways, enough of all that. But so let's get into what we've been reading, Mike. Anything been sticking out to you in your time that you've got to read?
Well, I've been reading the same book that I was talking about last time, which is Tim Keller's Every Good Endeavor. I mentioned I've been just doing a lot more with my work, and I've been wanting to read some books about vocation and stuff. So this book's been really great. I'm still plugging away. I really don't have a whole lot more to add about it. I just wanted to read a couple of awesome quotes that were in the most recent chapter that I read. The chapter is titled "Work as Service." Early in the book, in the introduction, I believe he cites Robert Bellow, which is a sociologist, an American sociologist. But anyway, this quote right here is from Every Good Endeavor. Bella called us to recover the idea that work is a, quote, vocation or calling, a contribution to the good of all and not merely a means to one's own advancement, to one's self-fulfillment and power. Remember that something can be a vocation or calling only if some other party calls you to do it, and you do it for their sake rather than for your own. Our daily work can be a calling only if it is reconceived as God's assignment to serve others. And that is exactly how the Bible teaches us to view work. And then skipping over just a little bit in the same chapter. We are not to choose jobs and conduct our work to fulfill ourselves and accrue power, for being called by God to do something is empowering enough. We are to see work as a way of service to God and our neighbor. And so we should both choose and conduct our work in accordance with that purpose. The question regarding our choice of work is no longer what will make us the most money and give us the most status. The question must now be, how, with my existing abilities and opportunities, can I be of greatest service to other people, knowing what I do of God's will and of human need? And then one last quote real quick. I thought was awesome. Tying in the gospel, of course. The gospel of salvation through sheer grace holds a second implication for work. While ancient monks may have sought salvation through religious works, many modern people seek a kind of salvation, self-esteem, and self-worth from career success. This leads us to seek only high-paying, high-status jobs and to, quote, worship them in perverse ways. But the gospel frees us from the relentless pressure of having to prove ourselves and secure our identity through work, for we are already proven and secure. It also frees us from a condescending attitude towards less sophisticated labor and from envy over more exalted work. All work now becomes a way to love God who saved us freely, and by extension, a way to love our neighbor. So just a lot of neat thoughts. That was, I thought those were all good quotes to sort of toss out there. But those were real edifying for me this week, because I'm just sort of, seeing the design that God created for work, and how it's so good for us, and how we have such a bad view of work as Americans, especially. But this book has been so good so far. I'm not even halfway into it yet, but Every Good Endeavor by Timothy Keller. Very, very good.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what book it was I read. It was something in the last couple of years, but it was talking about work and how in our American culture, we idolize rest, but yet how the Bible it talks of working. I mean, there's, yes, moments of rest, sure, Sabbath, all these different things, but we do, everything is about retirement in American culture. What am I doing again? But and I'm not even saying that you always have to have the vocational job, but as believers, we never really quit working. If we're not working vocationally, we're working at least for the kingdom. Mm-hmm. And so that idea of we're always doing something for God's good and for His glory.
God Himself set the precedent in the creation. He worked 6 out of 7 days. That's most of the time. Yeah. And then He rested one of the 7. So that's like that He set up the rhythm for work.
Yeah, and I'm coming from a job where I worked basically 7.5, 8 months of the year, and now I'm leaving to become a pastor. And I'm like, man, I'm going from getting summers off where I'm going to be working in the summer. I'm thankful for it. I mean, I'm really excited about my new role at this church, but I'm also like, they take their one day off during the week, and then we have Saturday service, but you still kind of get Saturday mornings off. But I'm like, it's going to be a shift in just my mentality, but it's not, again, work doesn't have to be a burden.
And don't even think of it as like just vocation either. It's like work continues when you get home. For the father, when you come home, it's work to have the right attitude towards your wife and your children. Yeah. I know it's, it's different. People categorize it different in their mind sometimes, but, that's an act of service to the Lord, and that is good. And he sees that. So, this book has been real good for that perspective.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So, along with my gaming, my reading has kind of been hit or miss here, touch and go. But I've kind of been reading through the Minor Prophets as I kind of jumped back into my old reading plan. I took a long hiatus from it, but I'm like, I just need to get into reading. I love to read commentaries, and that usually means shorter sections of scripture and then a larger commentary to go with it. But I'm like, I just need to get some larger chunks of the word. So I've kind of got back into my read through the Bible plan, jumped back in where I was. So kind of in the Minor Prophets. So I just finished up the Minor Prophets. Now they kind of take you back through 1st and 2nd Chronicles before you jump into the New Testament. But I'm just going to read something out of the beginning of Malachi chapter 1. It talks about the Lord's love for Israel. It says, I have loved you, says the Lord, but you say, how have you loved us? Is not Esau Jacob's brother, declares the Lord? Yet I have loved Jacob, but Esau I have hated. I have laid waste to his hill country and left his heritage to jackals of the desert. If Edom says, we are shattered, but we will rebuild the ruins, the Lord of hosts says, they may rebuild, but I will tear down, and they will be called a wicked country, and the people with whom the Lord is angry forever. Your own eyes shall see this, and you shall say, great is the Lord beyond the border of Israel. And so just that little reminder of, I'm not going to go in and exposit this because I haven't studied, but just the reminder that God, how often are we like Israel? That we say, or the God says, Adam, have I not loved you? And I say, well, God, how have you loved me? I get forgetful. So often we want to read and we think that we're the hero of all the different stories, but we have to remind ourselves almost always, we're like Israel. We're the forgetful, exactly. Rebellious, idolatrous, people of God that has to often be reminded. And so as I was reading that, I'm, trying to personally have like, man, Adam, how often have I said, or God has said, Adam, do you not see how much I love you? And I say, well, how, God? Well, maybe there's a difficult circumstance in life. Maybe there's some worry or anxiety that's on the front end of my brain or right before my eyes. But then God shows me, like he shows Israel, well, Adam, have you not been blessed over the last 4 years in your current job? Have you not been blessed with a wife and a child? Have you not been blessed with just salvation in general? Have you not been blessed by so many things where God has to be constantly reminding me to get me to the point where I can say, as Israel should say, great is the Lord. And they say beyond the border of Israel, but like just great is the Lord. So as I've been reflecting, there's been a couple of times I've been kind of walking around campus here at Cedarville and just thinking like, man, what a blessing that God has given me over these last 4 years to get to be in the job that I've been in, to get to be in the community that I've been in, at the campus that's beautiful. I mean, campus is empty right now because all the students are gone. But me and Rim were just kind of walking around the parking lot. They just paved them so she's not tripping over cracks. And I'm just like, man, like what a peaceful, blessed moment that I'm getting right now. And so just not almost being overwhelmed where I'm like, I have to thank the Lord and praise him for this. But I have to remember those things. I've often talked about in my life having to set up like altars of remembrances. Israel had to do that as a kind of their journey through the wilderness. So if they see something like, oh, well, why is that there? Well, Israel needed to remember what God had done for them. And so I'm like trying to have those mental altars of remembrances for myself. So when I look back when life is difficult or I'm struggling or whatever's going on, if I'm starting to doubt, okay, Lord, how have you loved me? I've got to have those moments, those altars where I can say, I remember, Lord. I remember when you were good to me in our adoption process. Yes. I remember when you were good to me in my family or in this situation. I was talking some kind of pre-show with you about my relationship with my mom. I remember when they were bad. I remember when that relationship was bad. But I can look at it and say, but it is good now. And that is God's goodness, and that's his grace, and that's a blessing. And so having those moments are so important for us, as they were important for Israel. We must also have those. So that's something that's kind of been on my mind. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say I've literally been thinking of the same thing this past week. It's something that I try to keep at the forefront of my mind, but by a lot of standards, I could have a lot to complain about. I've got 3 kids, and the oldest is 8 and the youngest is about to be 4. And, we live in a not big house with 1 bathroom, and, it's kind of tight, and there could be some ways to grumble and some reasons to grumble, but, the Lord, like you say, we're owed death.
Yeah.
We're not owed anything. So the fact that I have this home that I, sometimes complain about is a blessing from the Lord that I don't have to have, So yeah, I try to keep that sort of stuff in the forefront, when I get grumbly or discontent or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing I've just been reading, I'm not going to go deep into it. The new lead pastor of the church I'll be going to, he sent me a book, 101 Ways to Reach Your Community. It's a book on servant evangelism. I'm kind of going as this missions and ministry pastor, so kind of not even jump starting. They're doing a ton of it already. So just kind of joining in and championing some of our local and international outreach. But it's actually been when I first got it, I'm like, what is this going to be like? But it's all of these just really simple. It's literally 101 ways of like, okay, this is an event idea. Take a bunch of water bottles on a hot day, go stand on the corner and just give them away to people who are stopped at a red light. And when they ask why, give them a brief answer. You're just trying to engage and encourage and try to get opportunities to maybe you put a welcome card or some sort of connect card in it just to engage people. So it's got some from like pretty simple touch and go to some more intense, longer evangelistic opportunities, but I'm only in the beginning as of right now. But I'm really glad he gave it to me because it's getting my mind even already to shift to that mentality. So I'm thinking of like, okay, I like this idea, but how do I apply it to our context? So I'm making notes in it and
already thinking of that sort of stuff. That's
exactly.
Great.
So I'm like, all right, soccer is huge in the summer. So instead of taking water, what if I get 4 or 5 people and we buy 200 donuts? You've got all these parents. They're out watching their kids play soccer every morning. They got up before they wanted. Maybe they got their coffee, but they may not have got breakfast. You just walk around and give donuts away. Like, well, why are you giving these away? Well, I know you guys are getting up early, and we just wanted to share the love of Christ through a simple act of service. And so, definitely
great.
No hands tied or anything like that. But like, we just want to kind of show our care and like allowing them. You may get 1 or 2 conversations that come out of that, but that's still 1 or 2 conversations. And so it's kind of got my mind, turning and thinking a lot. And so I'm excited to get more into that. And so again, some of them I'm like, no. I just kind of put no on the side. Like, I'm not doing that one. But a lot of them are like, if you're creative and think outside the box and just apply them to your context, seems to be some interesting ideas. So,
okay. Yeah, that's awesome.
All right. Well, like I said, we're going to kind of shift up things. We're not going to be doing a Resident Evil. We're actually going to there's been a lot of different news things that have kind of come out that we've wanted to just, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago. Time flies. I don't remember when we changed up our the news section when we took it out of the show order. But I always love doing the news, and so usually it's me where I'm like, Logan, let's do a news like a roundup. It's been a while, so whenever I get my chance to take lead, that's usually where I go because I like talking about.
Awesome, let's do it.
Let's jump right on in. So one of the big news here recently of our recording. So by the time this gets released to just an everyday listener, probably be maybe a week or so later. But so yeah, we have this is per Kotaku, and then we have one from GameStop that I'll be kind of referencing. But we got Microsoft and Sony announced vague cloud gaming partnership. This is by Ethan Gatch over at Kotaku. It says Microsoft said today that it will partner with Sony, its chief rival in the gaming console space, on a new cloud-based solution for gaming experiences. It's unclear what exactly this new collaboration will ultimately lead to, but the move is still surprising and one given that the company's Xbox and PlayStation console lines are market competitors. I'm just going to read a little bit more. It says, under the memorandum of understanding signed by the two parties, the two companies will explore joint development of future cloud solutions in Microsoft Azure to support their respective game and content streaming services. So it looks like it's mainly focusing on the streaming side, but it's still Sony and it's still Microsoft. And then even Phil Spencer he tweeted out about it. He said, we're excited about the opportunities ahead with Sony for us to pursue our mutual gaming ambitions and delight players around the world. So this is this is a really interesting piece because you've got kind of the two biggest console competitors. I mean, Nintendo's there, but Nintendo's just doing its own thing most of the time. I mean, it's definitely there, but when you think of the competition, it really still feels like Xbox or Microsoft and Sony. So, Micah, let me just throw it out. Like, when you hear that they've got some cooperation, like what do you think? First of all, what do you think this is going to look like, and then what do you think this maybe looks like moving forward within the gaming culture?
Well, I think it's sort of a sign of the times. I put it in. I posted an article. I can't remember which one it was about this in the Facebook group today, basically saying how there's more and more handshakes going around here lately, and amongst these companies. And this is just another example here lately. So I see this more as a the high tide raises all boats kind of thing. Sort of the way, it's just in the best interest for Microsoft and Sony to use AMD on the generation we're on now, so that just it's easiest for developers to make their games. I sort of see it as that. It's like we're gonna just combine some technologies so that it's easier for our developers to create content and get it out there to the end user, which is ultimately what we want. I don't see this as any sort of, it just makes sense probably for Sony and Microsoft to say, yeah, why don't we partner in this way? There's no reason for us to quarrel and fight and be competitors in this particular space. We can help each other. We can help our developers who are making games for our system. So that's how I see it here. Not so much as a they're finally hugging it out. No, they're not. They see where they can mutually benefit, and they're doing it. And yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, again, there's still going to be major competitors. But I think, and a lot of the articles are mentioning this, Microsoft, last October, it says they announced Project xCloud. It's a video game streaming service aimed at making Xbox One games playable across computers, phones, and tablets. With Sony, you've already got PlayStation Now that allows you to do similar things, whether that's on the Vita computer. I think you can even do it on your iPhone and some tablets and iPads and all that now. But so they both are trying to do that, but they also want to do that well because Google, what was it, a month or two ago, announced their, cloud platform Stadia. Yeah. And so they're saying, okay, this is our competitor. Now, yes, we still have our exclusive. Yes, we still have our consoles. But if we're talking basically the streaming, like we want to still be in competition with the streaming platform that is Stadia. So maybe let's try to talk and work a little bit together. Now, I'm interested in thinking how this might affect crossplay. That's something so many people have been like, we finally got it in Fortnite. I think maybe we finally have it in Rocket League, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But people are still calling for it I don't think it's on Overwatch yet. I don't think it's still in a lot of the other games that are big on.
It's real limited, but it is out there.
Yeah, and so I'm wondering, will that be an overflow of, okay, we've got more cross-platform. We're working together in some areas. Now we still have our exclusives. We still want to outsell each other on the console side. But if we can work with each other to compete, because if Stadia kills it and we both struggling, it's going to hurt both of us. But if we can work together and take a little bit away from Stadia, that probably in some way will at least help the console market to say, hey, keep buying one or both of us. And then if you're able to do the crossplay, that's only going to make more and more people happy. I mean, whenever that comes to Apex Legends, that will be a big deal. And again, hopefully some of these announcements of, wow, they're starting to play together better. I mean, that picture of when Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony all came on stage at the Game Awards last year. It's like, okay, there is more, friendship things happening that haven't happened in 5-10 years. We're seeing more in the last 6 months than we've really seen in some ways in the last 10 years.
The other neat thing that I wanted to talk about this piece real quick is that if you're an Xbox fan, you've got to be excited, or just this is just another sign that Microsoft is willing to play with others and willing to partner and willing to do really whatever it takes to make their platform a great platform. They've had over the past 12, 18, maybe 24 months, they've had example after example after example where they're making these great moves that are really setting themselves up, I think, for the future to be really successful. Now, of course, it always comes down to the game, so they got to deliver in that regard. But they're setting up their platform to be, something that's really hard to say no to. And this is just another sign, I feel like, to where you got to have good vibes if you're going into the next generation. If you're Microsoft,
it's going to be. Microsoft is making a lot of good moves, but almost every day, if not every week for sure, I'm looking on like Facebook Marketplace. Like, man, I really want to buy. I want to find an Xbox on the cheap.
I'm in the same boat.
But then I'm always like, but why? Like, I don't. I love the Game Pass idea, but I'm just like, I'm not in a position where, first of all, I don't have enough time to play the games that I have. I just talked about that, so that's usually the biggest kicker. It's not that. I don't think that there's Xbox games that I want to play, especially with Game Pass. But I'm like, man, I don't have time. I need to be a good steward and not put more money into systems that I don't have to play. But this is definitely, it is good for all parties, at least console parties. And we'll kind of see how that continues to move forward. But it's definitely exciting times. And I mean, E3, right around the corner, we might get a little bit more with what this looks like.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm excited for E3. I don't know if you heard my rant last episode, but I'm pumped.
It's going to be different, of course, without PlayStation there, but it'll be okay. And we'll get a little bit more into what that means, what that looks like later. Yeah. But next news article, let's look. So again, a couple days ago, by the time you're hearing this, we got another Nintendo Direct. I mean, man, it seems like with E3 around the corner, we've got multiple Directs over the last couple weeks. We've got a State of Play. I'm like, we're getting a lot of stuff. Like, why is all this happening now of all time?
The Reco game announced. Yeah, I got a lot of stuff.
And so, but we got one for Super Mario Maker. And so I'm just going to kind of run through some of the new things that they brought on this version of Mario Maker. And then we'll kind of talk about the reveal, what we got to see, some of the other new things. And then we'll kind of just talk about it for kind of our hype level for it. So, yeah, we got a brand new Super Mario Maker 2. They kind of went into some of the additional things. It was a 15-minute direct that showcased some online multiplayer, which we didn't know exactly what that was going to look like, up to 4 players. So Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Toadette. They also have a new multiplayer versus mode where you'll be able to pit 4 players against each other on randomly selected courses and encourage players to get better at a versus rating. So you have like a versus rating that'll keep track of your wins, losses, and so on. They also created a new single-player story mode, which this is big for me, and I guess I can add some commentary later also. But as I find more and more and more, if there's not some sort of story mode, it's hard for me to get behind it. I need to feel like I am working towards completing something. Even with The Division, I'm playing most of it by myself, but at least I feel like I'm working towards an end. I think of the last Mario Maker, I think of some of these other games, I'm like, even online multiplayer games, I'm like, I'm having fun, sure, but I'm like, I don't feel like I'm completing anything. That's why when I played Fortnite, I wanted to win because I felt like I could say, hey, I did something. I'm not just out here trying to do challenges. That ain't no fun to me. I'm
completely with you. Yeah, the single player offering in this is going to be what gets me. I haven't played the first Mario Maker game. I haven't played any of it. So I was showing the direct to my wife before we recorded, and she was looking at it. We were talking about if this would be, if our 8-year-old would enjoy it. And we, of course, think that she would. But yeah, I'm watching the trailer again right now, and all the new things they're adding is just ridiculous. They fly through them like, you can do this, and you can do this, and you can do this. Yeah. It's a little head spinning, but I'm not ever into these sort of create the level sort of games. Yeah. Like for example, Dreams just went into early access for PlayStation recently, and people have been cranking out some excellent stuff in that in Dreams, and it's really impressive. But I would never make anything in Dreams. Yeah. I'd never really made anything in Little Big Planet or whatever. This is so simple and so intuitive, and so it just makes sense with the UI and everything. I could see myself making some fun levels in this game. So, and then me and my daughter could make a level and say, hey, can you beat this one, or what do you think of this, or we make one together. It just seems like a lot of fun. I'd be surprised if I didn't pick this up.
Yeah, and I'm torn because I remember when I got the last one, I was very much the same thing. Like, I'm not the creative type. I'm like, the most creative I've gotten games, I think, is Dragon Quest Builders, and you have to kind of build and do certain things, but I don't feel like it's over the top. Like, I'm not a Minecraft guy. I'm not doing anything like where it's going to make, if I have to do building, I'm just not the creative type. But getting to play other people's is fun. I like with this one that Nintendo is going to be using like their own tools in creating some like Nintendo sanctioned levels, like, because sometimes people are just so ridiculous. Like, the levels they're just crazy. Like,
these levels get crazy.
But I want some like, hey, this is just a good, well-made level, level in the game. And so, but like you said, I also like the idea. I know my nephew. I know he's going to get this game, and so being able to be like, hey, shoot me your last 5 levels that you made, because he's going to constantly. He's a creative type, so he's going to be making them. I'm going to say, hey, send them over and let me see if I can beat them. So those things definitely.
I feel like this game is way, way better if you have that buddy who is that person. It's like always he's the creator. He rarely plays. He's just creating levels all the time, and he just makes like a plethora. And you just go in and see what he's made, and you obviously talk about it. But yeah, this game looks great.
Well, the great thing is we have with the Reformed Gamers Facebook group, we could do like, all right, these are. Get a couple people who are big time into it. I think, Jonathan Steele, of course, be like, hey, Jonathan, play a bunch of these people's levels. Give us your top 5 of the week. and we say, hey, these are the top 5, maps that we play. And again, if there's a versus mode, we could have leaderboards. There's a lot of different fun things that you could potentially do with it. But I mean, there's all kinds of creative people in our Facebook group. And so there's going to be a lot more opportunity to kind of get some of these, because I'm trying to think when the last one came out, we definitely had TRG around, but it was still the Wii U, and not everybody had a Wii U. There's a lot more people with the Switch than the Wii U. And so I'm sure that this will be really big within the Facebook group. And now I'm just going to run through and I'm just going to say a bunch of the new things. I probably won't hit all of them because there's literally so many new things. But we've got slopes, Angry Sun, Snake Block, on-off switch, the seesaws, swinging claw, water levels, underwater like lava levels. You've got custom scroll, vertical sub areas. I'm going to skip down. You've got Mario 3D World is going to be added. They've added icicles, twisters, diagonal conveyor belts, red Yoshi. I mean, who doesn't want a red Yoshi? Give us more colors. Why don't we have blue ones?
Spitting fireballs everywhere.
You've got Boom Boom. You've got, again, the story mode, which, again, who doesn't want to rebuild Princess Peach's castle? They've got different course themes. You can do desert, snow levels, forest levels, sky levels. You can hit the moon, and it destroys all the enemies on a screen. They've got night, underground night, sky night. There's so many of just those little details that are just taking it to the next level. That, and then again, like I said, with the 3D world, you got Cat Mario, you got clear pipes. It's like we were talking before. It's like a 2.5D type scenario there, but they're adding so much. And I saw this, some people talking about it on Twitter. There's one more little like block that you've got, like your Super Mario World, your Mario 3, your Super Mario Bros. U, your Super Mario 3D World. Then there's another space that's empty. So it seems like we're not done yet. So I don't know what that's going to be. It'll be very interesting when they make that announcement. But there is, I mean, I barely even touched the surface of all the new things that they have on here. But it's definitely something to be excited about. Again, the co-op modes, getting to play online with people. Now, again, that's assuming Nintendo's online is going to be worth anything. It's hard for me to take Nintendo serious when they're talking about online. Yes, Smash has got better. Is it still good? I don't know if I would say it's good. You have to almost be plugged in via Ethernet. We still don't have multiplayer on Mario Party. We mentioned that earlier. The Nintendo Online service, I mean, you pay, you get what you pay for. We're paying $20. We're not getting that good of stuff. So hopefully they'll keep improving it, but definitely, nonetheless, even if it's just sharing codes, definitely something for you guys to keep your eye on. If you didn't see the stream, you can go find it on YouTube. Just search Super Mario Maker 2 Nintendo Direct, and you can kind of catch all the highlights.
What was the release date for that? Did you catch it?
I don't know. Let me see here. June 28th. So it's coming up. That's really not that long away. Man.
Yeah, a little over a month.
Maybe I'm
going to get that in Crash Team Racing in June.
Oh my gosh, yes. I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about today. I'm like, okay, I'm excited about that. That's going to be a good one to pick up.
Crash Team Racing was one of the very few games that my wife loved and enjoyed growing up. So we're absolutely getting this.
Yeah, game. and Hannah was the same. She got into Mario Kart when I had my Wii U, and even when I had it on my Switch. But then I sell games, and she's like, "Why would you sell the one game I wanted to play?" Like she actually would play it by herself with the old Wii U controller, like the screen, while I was playing something on PlayStation. And she tried so hard to get good. Now I could still crush her, of course, but it was so funny. Like that was like our first couple months of marriage when she was still trying to impress me. At this point, we're almost at our 5-year anniversary. And she's like, I don't have to try anymore. I'm not playing your games. Stop putting them in my face. Yeah. Every once in a while, she'll play Mario Party with me, but she's like, I'm past the point where I'm trying to get good at a game that you want me to. But if it's a racing game, I think she'll get into it. So. Yeah. But yeah, let's go ahead. Just for the sake of time, we'll do one more. Let's talk about we talked about Nintendo Direct a little over a week and a half ago. maybe not even. We got the most recent State of Play. So this is PlayStation's their version of a Nintendo Direct. They're about the same length. I mean, what do you say? Maybe 15 minutes?
Yeah, this one was like 10 or 11 minutes. It was shorter than the first.
And so we'll kind of get to that here in a second on what we think of. Okay, what do we think of the State of Play idea and the way that they're doing the marketing? But just to run through real quick of what some of the announcements were. We got Predator Hunting Grounds. So that was a new reveal. We didn't get really any gameplay. It was kind of like a little cinematic. So I'm sure if you're into Predator, it sounds like it's going to be some like multiplayer, maybe 4v1, something like that. I think it's made by the same people who made Friday the 13th.
It is. And it is, Friday the 13th, I think, was a Kickstarter. So they're going to have a lot more sort of funding behind this one. Sony and 20th Century Fox are putting it out. So hopefully they'll have the funds and can crank out a good one. It
seems like people enjoyed it when it was working. I think it had a lot of online issues, but that might be one some people are definitely going to be excited for. We also got a date for Medieval, the remaster. Did you ever play Medieval back in the day?
Just the demo. I didn't really care for it, and to be quite honest, I don't see the hype or I don't know if there's any hype. I don't see the interest. It just looks I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even know really what it is. It looks like a kind of a adventure game of sorts, action adventure. Doesn't look like it's very necessarily platforming, is it? It's just kind of
no. It's just a little hack and slash, like you said, a little action adventure. It didn't. Again, I didn't play it. I can't really say definitively, but it doesn't seem too in depth. It was that PS2 generation. But there are apparently some fans that love that game, but that's coming.
Yep. And I mean, it looks, of course, way better than the original, but it comes out October 25th. We got a date for that. We got a game called Away. It's a survival series. You're basically like almost looks like a flying squirrel or something. That's not what it is, but it looked pretty interesting. Your goal is to like get from one place to another, and you're just fighting natural. You're an animal and you're trying to survive cars, people, all these things just to get from point A to point B. We got some gameplay, it looked like. Of course, not everything, but it looked kind of interesting to me. I don't know if it'll be one that I buy.
Yeah, it's hard to sort of tell what this is. It was visually pretty striking, and I was like, do you play as other animals too? I couldn't really tell. It looked like you just played as the flying squirrel the whole time, but it looked interesting for sure.
We've got River Bond. It's a voxel shoot and slash indie crossover is what they're saying here. I don't remember too much about that. Do you remember that one?
It's just like a fun little, like kind of a 4-player isometric view, just run around, kind of like, I'm drawing blanks right now for comparisons. But anyway, the main draw for this one is that they have a bunch of indie game stars like Shovel Knight and the Kid from Bastion and Juan from Guacamelee as like the stars as the characters you play as. So that's a neat aspect for sure. Yeah. There's like maybe 7 or 8 different indie stars, so to speak, in this game. And it just kind of looks like a fun little multiplayer kind of hack and slash. It looks pretty good. It looks like it may be $20 or something.
Yeah, I'm looking at kind of some of the screenshots now. It does look like it. I mean, it looks cute for a video game.
Sure.
Then we got some Monster Hunter World DLC. Now they're saying it's huge. It's like
this is a big
one. It's not
one.
just like a couple missions. You've got a new like area. You've got a new major kind of boss dinosaur. So if you're into Monster Hunter, this is one. I've never been a Monster Hunter. If you've listened to the podcast at all, it's not my jam, but definitely something you might want to check out if you're into Monster Hunter still, if you're still playing it, if you're wanting to buy the DLC. It sounds like it's going to be worth the price of admission. It's just kind of where you're at with that game. But the biggest thing we kind of got our first real look at Final Fantasy VII Remake, like gameplay. I've never played the original. This one, it looked like it was, I know the other one was like kind of turn-based RPG. This was like not turn-based. It looked more of like a Final Fantasy 15 type action compared. I don't know. I know very little about Final Fantasy VII, but this one's got,
Did you play the original?
What'd you say?
Did you play the
I've
original?
never played Final Fantasy VII. The only Final Fantasy I've ever even tried was 15, and I played it for about 15 minutes.
Well, fans of Final Fantasy VII would know when the state of play began. So what they do, Sony does, is like, you're watching sort of the stream is about to begin, splash screen, and then it starts, and it's like a black screen with the PlayStation 4 light bar that's on the console itself, like sort of in the middle of the screen, and it turns from orange to blue, and it has that beep, that PS4 beep, like it's turning on. But this time it was the Final Fantasy VII sound effect, the bling, that for like when you select something. And of course, any Final Fantasy fan is like, what was that? And so that was like the tell that like, hey, this is coming. So yeah, they showed it off. And okay, so this game, I need to back up just a little bit. This game has been in some development turmoil. I don't think it's any secret. It was in the hands of a developer. I forget, CyberConnect, maybe, I want to say. That may not be right, but someone outside of Square Enix. And apparently it wasn't up to snuff. There was some gameplay footage that came out that they had created where they showed some action fighting, and there was some critiques with some of the character models and stuff. So anyway, Square took it back under their wings, and I think this is the result of that, basically. So we're finally seeing what the game's going to look like for real. It does look like it's a good bit kind of like maybe Final Fantasy 15 and Kingdom Hearts combat, potentially, with some flavor of Final Fantasy 7. I think they take some of the things about like the limit breaks and stuff, and they're there. So goodness gracious, my hype levels are through the roof. And they said that there's more to come in June, which means they'll be at E3 with Final Fantasy 7, and we'll probably get a lot more details. So this is one of those games that's like, it's an event. It's up there with like, I don't know if sort of like The Last Guardian and how it got built up and built up. Now that sort of got delayed so much that it really became a story, but it kind of has that sort of hype levels a little bit. There's just so much. I can't think of many games. You think of Half-Life 2. There's a few, but Final Fantasy VII is a very, very beloved game by a lot of people. It's a lot of people's first JRPG. It was the gateway drug into that a little bit. It was for me. It was my kind of pretty much my first JRPG, their first Final Fantasy, and it has a special place in a lot of people's hearts. So I know Square Enix, I think they know how important it is to get it right. And this is a good sign. Everything that they showed in this, save for maybe some of the voice acting, looked really
still,
good.
They kind of announced later, like via Twitter and stuff, it's still going to be episodic. So that's still the plan. But it's that I need to play 7. I think, like, I don't know. I've got it from my Vita. I know it's not the best way to play it, but it's probably the most realistic way that I'll play it. But it's just carving out the time to set the Switch down. I'm trying not to buy some games for a while, but I kind of feel like I should play it before, but maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just jump into this one and let it be the...
I don't know, man. I'm not positive you would love it, to be perfectly frank. Some of those PS1 games, when you consume them for the first time today, they just kind of don't hold up. In the same way, we have a special place in our hearts for Final Fantasy VII because we were, like young when we played it, and that sort of thing, and impressionable. So, I'm not positive it would have the same impact on you, but honestly, so I just recommend just waiting for this one. I hear rumor is that this game, Final Fantasy VII Remake, is closer than we think, as in it may come out like before the end of the fiscal year, March 2020.
There's probably little chance I don't play this game. Like, the story, I know a lot of people, I give Jesse a hard time about it because I know he's a big fan. In our admin chat, he posted some picture and I'm like, what game is this from? Like, what game are you talking about? And he's just like, get behind me, Satan, basically.
Get out.
Yeah, it's a good time. But yeah, I know people love it. It's a big deal. I remember when it was kind of announced at E3 a couple years back, the Year of Dreams. So it's definitely one that's going to be on the radar. So, But yeah, so those are three of the kind of big news things over the last week that, I haven't got to talk about with too many people because a lot of our students are gone. And so I'm glad I was able to have Mike on here to chat them up. But before we finish up this episode of the podcast, it's that time of the month where we do our Patreon thank you. So I'm just going to read through all of our patrons real quick, just the names. Without their help, we definitely wouldn't be able to do the podcast. I mean, again, I tell Logan all the time, he's kind of been the OG podcaster, and he's put a lot of time and energy and effort into the podcast. I know the patrons have been a huge blessing to me, but also to him. And so just a little way, it's not a lot, but it's a little way for us to say thank you here for everyone to hear. So at the 25 plus tier, we've got Eric Bryant, Wesley Ray, David Skinner, the Jedi Slander podcast, Luke Strain, and Gareth Evans. At the $15 tier, we've got David Matthews and Alex Castellanos. At the $5 tier, we got Xavier Medina, Austin Godot, Colin Gregory, our very own Micah Hendrick. Thank you, sir. Matt McDougall, Caleb Schmidt, Jake Walker, Jeff Walford, Alex Hooper, Jesse Panu. And then at the $1 tier, Ryan 1701E, Zach Buchholz, Cody Dean, Luke Kelly, Mark Fromm, Christopher Commander, Derek Smith, Michael Toller, Josh Broccolo, and then Mitch Etheridge and Derek Coppinger. Guys, thank you so much for your continued support of the podcast. Again, it may still be going, but it wouldn't be what it is today. And it definitely is the encouragement that at times we need. I mean, if any of you guys, I know we've got a couple podcasters in that group. It takes time and energy and time away from our spouses and family to do the podcast. And that little support, it's a good reminder of how much we mean to you guys. And so we definitely appreciate you guys, whether you were giving $1 or $25, it all means a lot. So thank you for supporting us over on Patreon. If you'd like to, go over to patreon.com/reformgamers. You can find us, give at any level. Again, it's greatly appreciated. So go over there and check us out. But before we go, just take a few minutes and give any recos that we have. Mike, anything that the dear listeners need to check out?
Yeah, I think so. When God of War, the original God of War 1 and 2 came out for the PlayStation 2, on the disc, they were accompanied with these really great behind-the-scenes documentaries. It was like a good, half hour, 40 minutes maybe. Going into the details, you learned about Dave Jaffe a lot in God of War 1. You learned what Cory Barlog did for God of War 2. And you saw Stig Asmussen, who's now working for on Jedi Fallen Order, direct God of War 3. But there wasn't anything for the new God of War that recently came out for PS4. So Sony just released on their YouTube channel this almost 2-hour documentary titled Raising Kratos. And it's excellent. If you like documentaries at all, and you care about this game franchise whatsoever, absolutely watch this. Language warning, of course, but it is it's very, very good. I teared up watching it a little bit. I'm just a big emotional ball as I get older and older, anyway. But I'm watching it, and they go through, of course, the crunch up to E3 is always a big thing, and that first reveal. When they revealed Kratos with the beard and all that stuff at E3 2016, they went into that moment and just sort of the ups and downs of the development. They go into a lot about the canceled Sony Santa Monica project that basically paved the way for them to start doing God of War. They have a lot of art from that game, and it looks really interesting. It's sort of what if, could have happened. So very good look into Sony Santa Monica. And they're the last 5 years basically of them making the new God of War. So if you have any interest in the game, or just in, video game development period, it's called Raising Kratos. It's on YouTube, on Sony's YouTube channel.
It's definitely on my want to watch. It's just finding that. I mean, you basically got to treat it like a movie. It's 2 hours long almost. So
yeah, it's 1:57, I think, an hour 57.
It's definitely on my want to watch. I remember when they made that announcement at E3, and I was just like, I knew, you're like, this is different. And then they showed the gameplay, and you're like, okay, this is not your normal God of War. I am totally down. And then, of course, it's become probably top 3 all-time game for me. I mean, it's so good.
It's an all-timer for sure. I want to go back and play it again.
Yeah,
soon.
my Reco is Detective Pikachu. I went and checked it out this week. My wife they laughed at me because I went and saw it by myself like a big nerd. But I did it because I was back home and we had family to babysit. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to treat myself. And I went at like 11:15. Again, how big of a loser am I? I'm going at 11:15 to a movie by myself. I promise. I have friends, people. I have friends. But yeah, I went and saw it, and I mean, it's not bad. I mean, it's cool seeing the different Pokemon kind of brought to life. The story, it's kid friendly. There's, I don't want to put any spoilers. There's a couple kind of dark moments, so you might want to be careful. Depending on how sensitive your kid is to some of that. But it's definitely, it's a fun movie. I enjoyed it. It's probably one of the better video game movies that's come out. Again, are we talking about winning awards? No. But when you're talking about Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter as our other video game movies, this one is better than most of them.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely a fun watch if you're going into it with kind of the right mindset. So I'd say, hey, if you like Pokemon, I'm not even a big Pokemon fan. Like, I've played one of them, but when a video game movie comes out, I feel like I need to go check it out. So if you've got any interest, you would if you're a Pokemon person, you're probably going to even appreciate way more than I would. Psyduck is a boss in this movie. That was always the one character before I was even into Pokemon. I'm like, Psyduck just seems kind of crazy. Like, I kind of want to Psyduck myself, and that's kind of one of the main Pokemon that's around that you see often. And the way they do some like culture references and stuff with like Seinfeld at one point. And so it's, there's definitely some play on and some words there for the parents, some jokes that the kids wouldn't get, but I definitely enjoyed it. So if you haven't seen it yet, you're interested in it, take the couple bucks and go check it out. It's definitely not a bad movie. I wouldn't say it's bad, but yeah. So, dear listeners, thanks for checking us out. If you want to interact with us, check us out over at patreon.com/reformgamers. You can find us on YouTube, Twitch. We've got the Reformed Gamers on Facebook. You've also got the reformedgamers.com where we've got show notes, articles, reviews, different things like that. So if you're interested in reaching out to us, go ahead and find us on those different platforms. But until then, GG and amen.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Reformed Gamers. The following people are supporting us on Patreon at the producer level or higher, and we'd like to shout them out right here, right now. Those people are Alex Castellanos, David Matthews, David Skinner, Eric Bryant, Gareth Evans, Luke Strain, the Jet Islander Podcast, and Wesley Ray. Thank you for your support, keeping the controllers charged, and encouraging my addictive habit of getting platinum trophies. GG and amen.